Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are at Rejuvenate Edition 5. We are on to our third session, and we've got a very special guest today. And before we get into that, I hope you guys are, already had your lunch, if it's an early lunch. If not, you've already, in the midst of having your lunch. So thank you for joining us. Welcome, Chandreshan Ravichandren. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Hello. Thank you so much for having me in the show.
Great. Now, Chandreshan is a program coordinator with the Cricket Academy. We will get into that in a very short while. But I just want to do a little quick brief introduction about Chandreshan for the benefit of our viewers here today. Now, if you have ever thought that superheroes don't exist and only exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you've really got to think twice. You've got to sit down and talk to this very young man. We were just talking off air earlier, and I literally told him, in certain circumstances, I'm already old enough to be your father. So it's really great that we've got so many young talent in Malaysia here today who are doing amazing work that, if I had not done any research work for Rejuvenate, I wouldn't have come across such amazing people. And I'm just so glad that, that the team here at Synapse has decided to embark on this Rejuvenate journey, 5 months ago. And obviously with the planning and whatnot, almost half a year ago, and we have unearthed so many young talent who are change makers in the Malaysian scene and even globally. They're making impact all over the world, and that's just so fantastic to know. Now, Chandreshan, again, welcome to the show. I've given a brief introduction, so now all the kids that are watching are expecting Captain America or Thor jumping out of their screens, but let's go back to reality. Please give us an introduction of yourself, please.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm not like a Marvel superhero or whatnot, but I'm Chandreshan. Everybody calls me Chan because it just easy for them to pronounce it that way. And I used to be a cricket player. I used to play for the junior national team, under 19 team, and even for different occasions. And I was also part of the national development program since I was like 15 years old, all the way till I was 19 years old. And then when I was playing cricket regularly, this was a training session that we had. What happened was that I had this injury. It was not like okay, what happened? Let me tell you what happened, so then you understand how the injury was. So it was selections going on. For, I think it was for a big tournament that was coming up. So I had to dive to catch a ball. So I did dive. So what happened when I dived was basically my heel touched my head. Like, that's how bad I fall. So it was like a scorpion kind of thing. Yeah. Oh. So it was a bad fall that I had. And then me being me, I just got up and continued on to play without any pain or whatever. I just didn't feel anything. So I just continued on to play. And the next day is when I actually felt, yeah, I guess it was that. So I would just continue on to play the whole day. So next day when I got out of bed, that's when I felt like my entire legs were painful. So I went to the doctor, got it checked and did some scans and whatever not. And then they said that I have a disc prolapse out of my back. So it was prolapsed, and then they said, oh, it'll be fine. You just need to go through some rehabs and whatnot. It will take some time, but surely you'll recover. But so I was going through my physiotherapist, but 2 weeks, I think about 2 weeks later, I stopped feeling my leg. So I couldn't feel my leg. Like, there was no feeling at all, so like, so if you pinch my leg, and I remember my friends back then even like tried to pour hot water in my leg just to see test just to test and see whether my leg is working or not.
Oh,
Yeah, but
wow.
that's how bad it was. Like it was, I had no senses of feeling whatever at that time. And then what happened was went to the doctors, and the doctors were completely not sure what's wrong with me, and they were not really they don't really know what to prescribe to me at all at that time as well. So there was a very long waiting period to actually allow the doctor to find out what's wrong with me. And I think it was a period where I started to actually question my identity itself. I think because for the longest time, because I started playing cricket when I was 10 years old. I was very bad at any other sport, and I picked up cricket, and I kind of stick to it since I was 10 years old. And it shaped my identity as a person. And not only identity, it opened up a lot of avenues and doors for me to, to study, to go overseas, to be part of different things and experience life overall. So once they said that, okay, you might not play again, like the doctor said, you might not recover again anymore, and you might not ever pick up a bat and play again, it kind of crushed me, because my entire identity, the value of life was all depending on it. So it was a good time, me reflecting and asking myself, what would I be without cricket? Like, where would I be? Who would I be? Would Chan still be a Chan if there's no cricket in his life?
And
I think
this is all when you are 19.
Yeah, this is all when I was 19 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So so a lot of these questions, I think I was questioning life, my existential crisis. I was having existential crisis at that time itself, because I just was not sure what is going to happen in the future. A lot of uncertainties in terms of my physical health itself. And I think that was a period where I told myself that, okay, no matter if I come out of this or if I'm not coming out of this, I don't want to live a life where it was so self-centered. And because you being an athlete, life can be selfish sometimes, because you are chasing after a goal, and you sacrifice everything else. You sacrifice your family, your social life. So I growing up as a teenager, I didn't really have any kind of social life or whatever. It was just all game, like get up, train, go to bed. So there was a lot of things that has been sacrificed, and I felt that I didn't want my life to be as self-centered if after this anymore. I wanted a meaning behind it. I wanted to make something out of life that would be meaningful. Okay. And what happened after that was that, and then is when but on that timeline of waiting, one of a doctor from, I'm not sure exactly which country, but he met my physiotherapist, and he said that, I've looked at the case of your patient. I would like to do some treatment for him. So what happens was that we took a treatment called PRP. PRP is basically what they do is they take your platelets out of your blood, and they will mix it up with some sort of steroid, I guess, or some sort of steroid, and they will re-inject back into the part where you've injured. And for me, it was the spine. So they re-injected it back to my spine. I think about four shots of it. And they said that, okay, let's wait for 2 weeks and see how would it be. And fortunately, I got healed and recovered out of it. And then when I wanted to go back to the sport and to play again, it's just that there was no longer that drive to achieve, like I said, because I went through a whole season of just questioning everything, and then now for me to go back to 100% grinding again to achieve a goal was not really, was no longer relevant, and so I just didn't find that drive to continue being part of the team. So I decided to leave this, and when all this done, I was 20, and I was entering my 21 already lah. It was about 2 years. The whole process took 2 years. So I was I was 21 years old, and I just felt that okay, I'm out of this. I'm no longer interested in competing professionally or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So it took you about 18 months to kind of like recover from the incident, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, I want to pull back a little bit to a couple of things that you mentioned. Earlier on, you said that, you know, you were not good in many sports, but you kind of found your calling in terms of cricket. I'm just very curious in that sense. Cricket, to me, has almost all forms of expression, if you would put it, of other sports, right? So you use the hand, you bowl, you kind of run. There's a lot of leg movement. There's a lot of hand-eye coordination in that sense. So what did you mean when you say, you know, you were not good in any other sports? Because it feels like it should be the other way around, right? You know, you could be good in badminton or you could be good in football, but you are absolutely horrible in cricket because it's a combination of all things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I get what you mean because, I mean, if that is something happened, okay. So what happened was that because when I was 10, 11, when I was in primary school, I was not a person into sports. I really was not into sports. I was more of an academic person. I just wanted to score my A's and get out of primary school kind of person. But I think it was one occasion where my primary school, one of my PE teacher told me to take part in the 100 meters. You know, for your house, because you know, in your primary school you got houses, right? The color, so
color houses.
Yes, the color houses. So I had to like take part in it, forced to take part in it, and I got last. And I was not fat, or I was not like whatever. I was normal. I was just skinny, but I got last. And then the teacher came to me and said that, "Hey, you're so skinny, but you are so slow. I think you're very bad at sports. I think she was like, you are very bad at sports." It kind of triggered me, and I felt like, man, I have to prove you wrong. So I'm going to take part in some sport. What happened was that I went for trials in different sports, football, badminton, and whatnot. And I didn't get selected. I got rejected in everything. And how I got into the cricket team back then in school, because you know, cricket being a non-popular sport, it had few team members. They were short of a member, and that's how I got into the team.
Right. So
yeah. So that
I guess safe to say, when you were in school, you kind of have a cricket club per se, yes?
Correct.
Okay. Which school was this?
This school was it's a Tamil school, because I went to a Tamil school. Vivekananda is in PJ.
Okay.
So it's
I know.
Yeah. So
we used to be neighbors. I used to be from Bukit Bintang, the primary school
right
behind you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense in terms of you picking up cricket, because at the end of the day, you know, cricket is not really a common thing that is
correct.
You know, taught or even played in a lot of the Kebangsaan school.
Correct.
I would also perhaps lump hockey into the same category as well, where not all schools actually play hockey. Yeah. So okay, that's interesting to know. Now, after that 18 months, after a lot of soul searching, as you put it, you know, I guess in a way you kind of ended up at you know, Dream Village, or was that something before that then led to Dream Village?
So right after all this done, that was when I started my uni. I started my degree, and when I started my degree, I wanted to do some things with the free time that I had, because I just found my time. I had so much time after not training every day. It was just empty, and I wanted to fill it up. I wanted to do something with it. So I started to volunteer in an organization called Asian Youth Ambassadors, and which are also sister organizations with Dream Village Football Academy. So what they do is they run programs for for children, especially in Subang. For underprivileged children, they run free football programs, and also free English tuition programs and whatnot. So I was volunteering with them, and when I was volunteering with them, and I was helping out them, the founder of the Football Academy, he approached me and asked me that, hey, why not? Yeah, I know that because he knew that I was a national player and whatnot. So he approached me and asked me that, why not you want to start your own thing, teach more kids cricket, give them the opportunity that you received, like help them build that platform. Would you want to take it up and run? And for me, it was something that it reminded me of my own personal journey when he brought that up to me, because I come up from a tough background. I grew up in a low-cost flat in an urban poor community as well, and I grew up in a place where there was a lot of crime. And if you remember the 2001 Medan riots, Kampung Medan riots. So I grew up in Kampung Medan, so I grew up in the midst of the riots. So I've seen like a lot of things younger. And I have seen how people and friends of mine have wavered from a right life into drugs or violence and whatnot. So for me, I felt like, okay, I stayed straight because of my parents worked really hard to make sure I studied and make sure I be right. And also sports, especially cricket, kept me grounded to what I needed to achieve. It gave me a purpose in life, and it brought me to wherever I was. Of course, I didn't make it because of the injury and whatnot, but it got me into tertiary education. It got me into scholarship, and I felt that if I could, then there are so many kids out there can as well. There are so many kids who deserve that opportunity as well. Not everyone has to be a national player, but I think it's a platform where they can use to get a purpose in life, or to stay grounded and also achieve something in the future. And I really loved it, and I said yes, I'm willing to do it. And that's how it started. We started in 2018, and we kind of like from Dream Village Football Academy, then it became we started a separate thing called Dream Village Cricket Academy itself.
Now, just before we move, we deep dive into Dream Village Cricket Academy, you mentioned very briefly about your parents. Now, I just want to put it into perspective. When that injury happened, how was it like? I'm sure there were high hopes of you making it as a cricket player per se, and then the injury happened. That whole 18 months that you were recovering. How was the support like? Was it crucial at that point in time to have your parents supporting whatever your decision?
Okay. At that time, my parents were not there physically to support me, because my parents were not, because I was staying in Bukit Jalil, so I was based over there. So I was away from parents, and I went through every treatment, everything on my own, like physically on my own, without my parents around me. But my parents have always been very supportive. No matter what decision I make, they've always been supportive. When I started to tell my parents when I was younger that, hey, I want to like really focus on cricket, and they were like, okay. They did whatever needed. They got me whatever I needed to, and they made me go for it. And even when I was injured, they made sure I got everything I needed. And even when I made the decision that I'm gonna stop, they didn't like really question me or whatnot. They supported my decision, and they understood my decision. So, and even when I was starting, I told them that I'm gonna start this academy, Dream Village Cricket Academy, and they were supportive as well. So they've always been supportive and in the decisions that I've made. Yeah.
That's really good to know. Now, before I segue into Dream Village Cricket Academy, a question came up, and let's address that before we move on to the next segment. It's from Abu Samad. As a teen who isn't so sure about his future, how would I know if sports is the right thing for me to invest my time in? Or what are the signs that that particular sport isn't right for me?
Okay. 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 So it's a good question. I think as a teenager, I believe that everybody should play sport. It doesn't matter how good you are, how bad you are at it. You just need to play sports. Just pick it up and play sports. And I think it's a good opportunity to explore. And this is a mistake that I didn't do when I was a teen. I didn't explore as many sports I could. I stick to one, and so I want that for the kids nowadays. And as a teenager, I would suggest that explore as many sports as you can, and then it doesn't really matter how good you are at, but as you explore, I think you will find the right one. You will probably start to realize certain things, especially whether you are physically capable to do it. Do you have that certain skill set that sports require, your hand-eye coordination, agility, and whatnot, because we are all built different, and we are all made specifically, we are all able to excel in one sport differently based on our body and whatnot. So I think you'll only know it as you explore, and once you have start to see certain signs, and that's when you can stick to one of it, and most of it is also involving your passion. If you really feel passionate for one sport as well, then you should just go for that one. I think that is more important, passion, and commitment. If you can commit your time and energy, because some sport you might want to do it, but you don't have either the time to do it. Like cricket is very long. Cricket is a sport is very long, so some would not want to commit to it because it's too long. Some like to play like short span sports like football, 90 minutes and you go, and also time is another thing, and energy and finances. Some requires you to spend a lot of money. You want to buy your equipment, your set. Like example, cycling is a very expensive sport. So if you wanna, so you have to consider all this, and I think that's pretty much, I think.
That's a great answer, Chan. Now, Dream Village Cricket Academy. Give us an idea of I guess, pre-pandemic. What is the day-to-day like in terms of you being in the academy, running the academy with the children, hands-on and whatnot? Give us an idea.
Okay, so pre-pandemic, it was always a very busy season for us. We run on season basis. We used to run it 12 weeks, and then we take a break, and then the next 12 weeks. And so we have 3 seasons in a year. And every 3 seasons, we have weekday after-school programs. So we run after-school programs for low-cost flats, like PPR flats, kids around Subang. So we just, and it doesn't have to be a field. We run it in like futsal court or whatever. 10, 12 kids come and join our program weekly basis. So we are running sessions for them. On weekend, on Saturdays, we have our main program where kids from all these communities, they come together to one sport. So we used to, pre-pandemic, we used to run in Taylor's University. They have a very nice cricket nets, actually. I think one of the few universities who have that. So we kind of collaborated with them, and they were okay to allow us to use it for free, because it's a community work, and we had about like 30 kids, and these are kids from, these are Orang Asli kids. These are kids from PPR flats, different PPR flats coming together, and they're all there and they're playing. And because pre-pandemic, we used to run in a social enterprise model where we also charge fees for kids who can afford to pay, so that it can subsidize the kids who can't afford to pay. Okay. Instead of just depending on donations or depending on grants and whatnot, we thought that this is a more sustainable way. and we went in that way. So it was a mixture of every community. We had diverse communities coming in and playing cricket together. It was really a joy to watch them just communicate with each other and just play without any of your, like you are different race, you are different, and you have refugee kids from Somali who are there also playing. You have Orang Asli kids, and like languages, there's no language barrier, whatnot. They're just having fun. And we end of 2019, I think that was like my most memorable moment, because I think that was the last time you can actually gather physically as a big crowd. So we run a community cup where we divided all these kids that we had into different teams. They all mixed. Each team was mixed up with different communities, and we run a fun tournament for them to play. And parents were there to support. All the kids were there. It was really amazing to see. Even Adun of Subang Jaya, YB Michelle Ng, she was there to support. So we really garnered attention from people of how we managed to run it, and it was really amazing to see these kids from diverse communities playing a sport together. Yeah, that was pre-pandemic. It was a busy era at all.
Chan, you spoke about everything that I truly dream of, since way back. It's always to have the people of all sorts of background, people of all sorts of community, people of all sorts of social status to come together. And in fact, even people of all sorts of playing abilities, right? You don't have to be super good at cricket. You don't have to be good at cricket. You can just be average, or you can just be a total new player in that sense, but everyone coming together to play, and I think Dream Village has really done a fantastic job in terms of doing it. I've seen pictures of the tournament that you guys ran in 2019, and it was just beautiful. I mean, if anyone wants to have a look at it later on, just go on to the Facebook page. The website is also there, available as well. And of course, those details can be found on the platform, rejuvenatemy.com, where you will be able to see Chan's speaker profile, and you can see how you can follow him closely in all those segments later on. But truly, and hence why the title today of our session is called Sports for All, because essentially, sports is meant to be that. It's for all. Right? No skin color, no language barrier, nothing of that sort. So it's really fantastic. Now, before I move on, there is one question that I want to ask from the audience. It says here, in Malaysia, cricket is not a famous sport, and many still don't know how to play. Myself included, Chan. So, whenever I have the time, I'll probably bug you and say, teach me how to play cricket one day. Yeah. And what are your hopes in the field of cricket in the near future?
I think, it's very true. But cricket is growing in Malaysia. Back when I was playing, when I was younger, it was even worse. It was just very uncommon for someone to even play cricket, or there was not much programs happening for cricket. But now, even the Malaysian Cricket Association has stepped up a lot in running more clinics and also campaigns, grassroots campaigns in schools and whatnot, to just garner attention towards cricket. I think my hope for and why I like cricket is because it's a sport that basically anyone can play and pick it up. And it's also a sport where you need to use your mind and your body at the same time. And I've seen it work for every kind of community. And that's what I believe, in the future, that every kid out there would play cricket. Cricket will be a common sport in Malaysia, and everyone is playing. That's my aim and my dream .
Great. Now, of course, somewhat the SOP and the lockdown and all that has kind of reduced in Malaysia. Have you all started back your training sessions? Are the kids back in the training field now? Has any of that started, or has it all just been online so far? And in fact, during the lockdown, were there anything that were conducted in that sense? Did you guys run online classes, online clinics, and stuff like that?
Okay. Okay, the last 1.5 years were very tough for us. We didn't really manage to run any cricket-related event, and the reason why we didn't want to pick up, we didn't want to run online things for the kids is because I think they were already stressed out with their schools and stuff, running online and trying to manage with it. We just didn't want to give an extra burden with them, but we just used the time to connect with the kids and personally bond with them and the families. So we did a lot more of initiatives to help the families during the pandemic in terms of food aid. We ran a breakfast program for the kids. We did help the kids in these areas where they needed the attention most at that time. Like if you are hungry, I don't think so you want to play sport. So I thought that I'd rather feed them first and take care of them first before I get them back on the field. But I know fortunately now when everything is smoothly going back normal, we're transitioning. We have started just beginning of October, we started our sessions. We are running, every community sessions have been started already, but we do face issues with venue because we can't no longer use where we used to be, use a centralized venue like,
Okay.
like in Taylor's, because of SOPs and stuff, because you don't want to allow people and whatnot, right? So I think we have not really started our centralized program, but more on community basis. Yeah.
So I suppose now your training sessions are still very small scale in that sense. Number one, obviously to adhere to SOPs, and number two, because of the limitation of infrastructure in that sense, that you probably have to use certain futsal courts and convert it into I don't know what you call it in a proper name, but that stretch where,
pitch, the cricket pitch.
Yeah. So okay. Now, I suppose any future plans for Dream Village to kind of expand that into a more proper setup per se, and have a more proper cricket field, to have some form of a long-term, it's got to sustain in that sense first. Obviously, we don't want to go into the money part here today. That's a different conversation altogether. But I guess to sustain in terms of, you have all the money, but you don't have the place to play or train, it's back to square one as well.
Yeah. I mean, infrastructure has always been a struggle for us, and even the football side, because if you want to rent a football field, a good one, it is quite costly. And not more, cricket is even more costly to rent a cricket pitch, a legit cricket pitch. So we have to rely on nets, like a training space or like public field and things like that. Of course, financially, it's going to be a big burden on our side. But we have never really wanted to go in a direction where we are focused on being physically stationary, or having an infrastructure set where the kids have to come, or where things would become a little bit more, a little bit more inaccessible for those who can't access it, for those who are unable to access it. Because speaking in reality, when we put all these plans in picture, like you mentioned, finance is another big thing. You will come to a point where you might need to, charge people. You might need to do certain things. So for our plan is never about that, going into that direction. But it's always very grassroots focused. It's always for the community, in the community, for the community, by the community. So if what is our future plan? It is for me is to raise more coaches in the community. I would rather raise another coach from the community that I train so that he can continue to do that program in that community. And I'll move on to another community and I'll train that community and I'll raise another coach, and that is my model would be, and of my model would be to sustain or to transplant per se. That is one, and we are also, our future plans is also like we are in the midst of trying to. We are thinking of pursuing to start a women's cricket team.
Fantastic.
With girls. So we have found communities where there are more girls who are interested. So we're thinking that, hey, why not just girls cricket team? I think the future is bright for girls to play cricket in Malaysia. The pathway is bright as well. Opportunity to play to represent the national team is also bright. So that's one of our future plans. And we also we have plans of venturing into athletics, because we identify talents in the community where kids have they have just natural raw talent, in because they can run fast, they can throw, they are strong naturally. Example, I met a boy who's really strong. He could throw a short putt 10 meters without moving, and he's only 14 years old.
Wow.
And so I was like, these are talents, man, that I don't want to bound them to say that, hey, you just need to play cricket. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person to bound those talents or those abilities. So we are always trying to venture into different things, and we are willing to learn. Like, I'm willing to learn whatever it takes to coach that boy to take it to the next level. So we are always towards that direction, to actually build that community in a place where they can run and sustain on their own instead of depending on us.
Great. So fantastic. You mentioned a couple of things, and you also segue to actually my next segment, talking about raw talent, whether you have spotted any talent in that sense, and I guess you've already answered that question. So I'm going to pull it back to the two other segments that I want to talk about. First and foremost, I suppose, when you talk about involvement in terms of grassroots and whatnot, has there been any form of collaboration between yourselves, as in the academy, and maybe, say, for example, KBS, Kementerian Belia dan Sukan, in that sense? The way I see it, KBS can have an overview, a general overview of the entire thing, but they would need to work with ecosystem partners like you guys to then mobilize that form of outreach and training and getting in touch with the community and stuff like that. So has anything of that sort ever happened, is happening, or will it happen, I suppose?
Okay, so the role of KBS with the grassroots academies or grassroots sports generally it's very administrative basis only. So we have if you have registered under ROSA. So ROSA is Register of Sports Association. So we need to fill up stuff and submit whatever a society has to do. We do those administrative roles, but on ground or in terms of support or finding talent, these are areas where KBS have not really delved themselves into. KBS has always been in a place where they are more focusing on the high performance place, and then they focus on the recreational area, on building recreational spaces, getting people to be more fit, and it's always been that. But looking for potential talents and building a nice, proper grassroots pathway it's not something that I guess KBS have never dwelled into. and this is an entire new area, but I will not blame them as well, because this is an area of sports called sports for development, which Malaysia is very foreign to. Sports for development is very common in countries like UK and whatnot, but in Malaysia it's very, very foreign for Malaysians, because sports have always been about performance, always been about winning medals. It's never about developing character, developing individual, and things like that. So this is something that maybe in the future KBS should really study about it, or there should be a policy about it itself.
Exactly.
I'm always been like an advocate on policy making, and I always try to get KBS, like share my things to KBS on developing policy. And I think now they are heading to a direction where 2030 is towards Sporting Nation.
Yes.
Visi Sukanegara, and they have a town hall where you can put up your visions and whatnot. But would all these visions be realized? Would all this be happening? Because it's easy to say towards Sporting Nation in 2030, but the target community is the adults, but not the kids. You're talking about 10 years later, so you have to be talking about the grassroots right now instead of getting the adults to be fit and whatnot.
Yes.
So so there is a lack. There is a very big lack, or a gap. Malaysia has a very big gap from the grassroots to performance level. There's a very huge gap that nobody has really tried to develop a structure. I think they tried, like FAM tried. I know in terms of football side, FAM tried, but didn't really last, I guess.
That project has quieted down, actually. Yes.
Yeah.
So I suppose we are, as in Malaysia, we are well known to have different kinds of policies and different kinds of blueprints, but we sometimes, I guess, we'll keep that for another conversation. I already see you smirking, Chan. Now, the other thing that I want to bring back into what you were talking about earlier is, of course, yes, you're talking about having a more mobile, so to speak, unit of the pitch, right? You don't want to have a built infrastructure where people will have to come in, but rather that thing can actually go around different communities, and it kind of becomes a road tour per se. Yes, it requires money to perhaps construct or fabricate something like this, or to develop something like this, but has there not been also communication with any form of corporate? I know you spoke about Taylor's University, allowing you guys to use the very nice pitch that they have that is purpose-built for cricket. But beyond that, I'm just off the top of my head, the banking institutions, the telco companies, the F&B companies, be it milk or chocolate malt drink, that green color one and stuff like that. Has there not been any sort of involvement from those people? Have you guys reached out to these people before and say, let's park this X amount of money here. This is a grassroots program that we have planned out for the next 3 to 5 years, and this is what we hope to achieve in the coming years in that sense.
Okay, I mean, I've written to so many of these corporates that you have mentioned, the green and white, the red, whatever color you mentioned. I've already written banking, F&B. I've tried to approach in different manners, emailing proposals or whatever I could, but it always, I think that they're not, maybe they're not interested in long-term sponsorships or long-term partnership. I would say a better word, a partnership or investment, but it's more of a in-kind or a short-term one-off. It's always been like that. Usually that's what we get. If we approach an F&B saying that, okay, this is what we have and we're gonna run a program. Would you guys like to sponsor? Yeah, sure. We'll just give you a carton of this and this and this for this season. Yeah. So it's always been in that approach. I think it's not, and again, it also goes back to in a place where it is not common for corporates in Malaysia to be saying that, yes, I'm going to support this grassroots program. If I'm talking about performance program, like I think they would say yes, because they can see like immediate results. If they are supporting an Olympian, they're going to see immediate results. And I think corporates tend to go according to those, follow that, instead of supporting at grassroots, where result will come out 5 years, 6 years, or maybe even 10 years later.
10 years down the road,
correct. And I think for them, maybe it's hard to wait for so long, or maybe it's just hard to see that far right now. So yeah, it's always never worked with us. We have tried, definitely, but so far not yet lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you, Chan, and I totally feel you as well. You mentioned everything that I have already wanted to point out. You know, they want instant ROI in that sense. They want to see instant result. They want to see instant sales. But when it comes to something of this sort, where it's for the future generation and whatnot, they tend to shy away, or they tend to, like what you said, you know, give you items in kind, and usually items that are nearing expiry and stuff like that. You know, that's a very common thing in Malaysia, unfortunately. So that's something we probably have to discuss, maybe in a different edition of Rejuvenate in the coming future. Now, as I want to wrap up our session here, I want to wrap it up with one of the questions that a guest here or a viewer here has parked for us. Hi, what advice would you give to a young kid looking to be a professional cricket player? And I want to add on to say that, you know, perhaps in the next 10 years of your coaching life, would you see a Malaysian player playing in the 2020? You know, as in the 2020 tournament? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. For the first, okay, I'll answer this one about Malaysia in 2020 first. Malaysia is en route to qualify for the World Cup, 2020 World Cup, and I think they are aiming for the next one in the next 4 years. I think that will be in 2025, and I think Malaysia is aiming for that as the national team. So Malaysia has really bright hopes to make it into the World Cup, and the team is working hard. I know the coaches are working hard. They have a very good program now compared to how it was back then. And they are very good at how they even take care of the players' welfare right now. And for individuals to play in the Premier League, because there are Premier Leagues as well.
Yep.
In cricket, and there are Malaysians who have played in certain international leagues, but not in the major ones, but in a bit smaller ones, in like Nepal, and stuff like that, and in Australia. And I know friends of mine who have played. So there is future for Malaysians to really embark in becoming a professional cricketer. And so again, going back to the kid who asked that question, if the kid is really into becoming a professional cricketer, I would say find an academy, and continue to train in that academy, and then from that academy, opportunities will open up as you play in different tournaments and leagues where there's scouts looking at you, and the step-by-step process is to play for the state, and then when you play for the state, and more scouts will look at you, and then you get into the junior national. That could be under 16, under 19, and that's how you just progress slowly. It takes a lot of time and hard work. And yeah, if the kid is around here in Selangor, then can join DBCA.
Yeah, For sure, for sure. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have with Chan. He is obviously back in you know, the HQ of Dream Village Cricket Academy, and he's got training sessions going on as well. So we do not want to take up more of his time. But Chan, thank you so much for being on the show. It's a real privilege and honor, and you know, I've learned so much in terms of how you know, you have come from you know, the background that you have came from, and what you have achieved, and what you're looking to do as well, and that's really inspirational in that sense. And I hope more young, you know, adults like you know, would take on this path and challenge status quo in that sense, and make sports accessible for all, male, female, boys, girls, any skin color, any language, and whatnot. And I truly hope that that will be, you know, that will come true one day. So Chan, thank you so much for joining us on Rejuvenate Edition 5.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a good really pleasure speaking to you, and it's a privilege to even be on this platform. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have with Chan, and we will be back at 3 p.m. where we speak to Dr. Rebecca Wong, and you know, she is a sports psychologist, and she's worked with the Malaysian team in multiple different sports, and she's also worked with the China speed skating team. So that's something very interesting to be talking about, as well as being a full-time esports sports psychologist for 2 professional teams now in Malaysia. So I can't wait for that conversation as well with Dr. Rebecca Wong, and we will be back at 3. So stay tuned, and then join us back again. And with that, I'll say bye-bye for now. Stay safe, Chan.